All right, let's dive right in. Today we're tackling a huge, and I mean huge, challenge that hospitals everywhere are facing, this really expensive reliance on travel nurses. But don't worry, we're not just going to talk about the problem. We're going to open up a playbook that's all about building a more resilient, more stable workforce from the inside out.
Okay, I want you to think about a number. 2 to 3 times. What do you think that means? Well, that's how much more a travel nurse can cost compared to your own full-time staff-registered nurse. That is a staggering premium, right? And honestly, it's the very heart of the problem we're going to unpack today. You know, during the height of the pandemic, travel nurses were, let's be honest, an absolute lifeline. No question about it. But that lifeline, for a lot of health systems, it's turned into a major liability. The emergency fix has become this massive, unsustainable financial weight on their shoulders.
And this quote it nails it, doesn't it? It's the classic story, right? A short-term solution accidentally creates a huge long-term problem. So the big question is, how in the world do we break this really, really expensive cycle?
And if you look at the hard data, well, the story gets even clearer. For some hospital systems, leaning this heavily on travel nurses has directly fueled a 15, even 20% spike in labor costs year over year. That's not just a small jump, folks. That is a massive financial drain that ends up impacting, well, pretty much everything a hospital tries to do.
So you're probably asking, okay, how did we even get here? How did this thing spiral so far out of control? Well, it wasn't just one single thing. It was more like a perfect storm, a combination of 4 key factors that all hit at once and created this massive surge.
Okay, so first you had massive workforce burnout. I mean, we all saw it. That pushed a ton of staff nurses to either leave the profession or, seek out that more flexible contract work. So boom, that creates a huge supply and demand gap. This forced hospitals into this totally reactive mode, just trying to plug holes at the very last minute. And of course, that desperation, it allowed staffing agencies to charge these insane premiums. It was just this incredibly costly cocktail of problems.
But look, it is not all doom and gloom here, I promise. There is a way out of this mess. The solution? It's all about shifting from reactive to proactive. It's about building what we're calling an internal army. We're talking about a playbook that's designed to create real long-term stability from the inside.
And this playbook really boils down to 3 core strategies. It's a 3-step process. First, you build your own flexible workforce. We'll talk about these internal float pools. Second, you start scheduling way smarter by using predictive analytics. And third, and this one is crucial, you boost retention to stop the talent from leaking out in the first place. So let's break each of these down.
Okay, so first up, what is an internal float pool? I want you to think of it like your hospital's own special forces. It's an in-house team of highly skilled, super flexible nurses. They're cross-trained, so they can jump in and cover different units wherever they're needed. The result? You get all the flexibility of a travel nurse, but you get it at the cost of a regular staff employee. Pretty cool, right?
And when you put them side by side, the difference is just night and day, right? With agency nurses, you get high costs, it's often tough to integrate them into the team, and there's basically zero long-term stability. But with an internal flow pool, you're looking at way lower costs, you've got nurses who already know and are part of the culture, and you're building a real foundation for the future. I mean, it is a no-brainer, a clear win.
And what about the financial impact? We're talking about a total game changer here. Hospitals that really commit to building out these internal float pools, they can slash their spending on contract labor by 30, even 40%. And that's not a one-time thing. That's annually.
All right, strategy number 2 is all about what's called predictive scheduling. This is really where you make that big shift from being reactive to being proactive. So instead of that mad scramble to fill a shift at the last minute, you're using all this great data you have, historical patient volume, seasonal trends, patient acuity, to actually forecast your needs and plan way ahead of time. So the big question is, does this stuff actually work? Oh yeah, it does. Get this. There was a mid-sized health system out in the Midwest that saved $5 million in 1 year. All they did was implement predictive scheduling, which cut down their overtime and their need for travel nurses. I mean, that's the power of just planning ahead.
Okay, now for our third strategy. And you could argue this is the most important one of all. You gotta stop the leaks. Think about it. A lot of the time, travel nurses are just filling spots that your own staff would have if they had just decided to stay. So retention isn't some fluffy, nice-to-have culture thing. No, it's a core financial strategy.
So how do you actually do it? How do you improve retention? Well, it really comes down to a few key things. First, you have to build an employer brand that people are excited to be a part of, even before they hit apply. Then, you have to give them clear pathways for career growth, not just dead-end jobs. And finally, and this is so critical, you need a genuine, real focus on wellness to fight back against the very burnout that got us into this mess in the first place.
Let me give you another real-world example. There was one large academic medical center that went all in on these retention strategies. And the result? They cut their nurse turnover by 12%. And they did it in just 2 years. That's a huge deal.
And you want to know what that 12% drop in turnover meant for their bottom line? Over $10 million saved in agency spend. That, right there, is the ultimate proof that when you invest in your own people, it pays back in a massive, massive way.
So when you start to put all of these pieces together, right? The internal flow pools, the smart scheduling, that intense focus on retention, you're not just patching holes anymore. You're building something much, much bigger. You're making a fundamental shift away from this constant, temporary reliance and towards a permanent internal strength. And this quote really gets to the absolute heart of it all. It says, the goal isn't just to fill today's roles, it's to create a sustainable funnel of clinicians who see your hospital as their long-term employer. See? It's not just about getting through this week's schedule. It's about creating a sustainable pipeline of talent. It's about making your hospital a place where amazing clinicians look and say, yeah, I want to build my whole career here. And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with today. It's a question for you to take back with you. Is your strategy built for temporary reliance, or is it built for permanent resilience? Because at the end of the day, that is the core question this whole playbook is asking.